Hey up and welcome to Corey's Corner, Captain's Log, Stardate October 18th, 2025. Okay, I'm back with another one of these Corey's Characters videos. You know, it's been a little while since I made the last one, the first and only, but I'm back. And last time I talked about Napoleon, you know, I made that video, I'll put that up in the little corner, whatever, put a link there. But today I thought I would talk about someone a little bit different. You know, I've been feeling a little bit ropey over the last couple of days, you know, not super well. I had this idea of going to the gym and just like working out like one muscle, you know, because I've been going to the gym on and off for a long time now, and I just never feel like I really see any progress. So I was like, oh, fuck it, you know, I'll pick one muscle. I chose the biceps because I was like, that's an easy muscle to work out, you know. And I was like, I'll just go to town on that, you know, I'll go ham. And I did, and it really hurt, dude. It hurt like a motherfucker the next day. I came home, whatever, didn't think much of it. That was aching, and then I got these allergies, my throat's fucked up, you know, and then I'm just sitting there, or laying there, you know, in bed or whatever. Oh, I feel awful, you know. But the show must go on, you know, we push on in the corner, that's what we do. So today I want to talk about the life and times of a guy called the Marquis de Sade. And I've been wanting to talk about this guy for a long time, you know, and you might have heard of this guy, you might know this guy. And if you do, you'll understand he's famous, or maybe I should say infamous, for his exploits and the things he did and the things he wrote about, you know, that's what I want to talk about. Get a little bit dark triad up in this bitch, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, anyway, so yeah, the Marquis de Sade, that's not his real name, you know, this guy's kind of royalty. I don't think he's even a marquis, you know, because marquis is like... it's like a royal title, you know, and as a lord myself, you know, I can relate to wanting to show off your nobility a little bit in your title or whatever. But I have like some pet peeves when it comes to naming conventions that I wanted to talk about briefly, because you know it wouldn't be a Corey's Corner video without like a completely pointless tangent like immediately before the video has even begun, basically. So. There are three things that really piss me off when it comes to names. And it's not that deep, you know, it's not that serious, but I just wanted to talk about them. It's like, one of them is when people have kind of fancy royal names. There's just no need for this, you know. Like, this guy's called the Marquis de Sade, but his real... If I just look this guy's name up, it's apparently... Donatien Alphonse Francois, apparently, is his real name. It's like, why can't we just call him that then, you know? Why can't we do, like, why do we need this dumb bullshit of the Marquis de Sade, and he's known as de Sade? It's like, whatever, you know, it's like, it's not even about an anti-monarchy thing, even though I mean, I would consider myself that too, but it's also like, it's like people, if someone's like the Earl of somewhere, like, I'm the Earl of, you know, whatever, so they become known as that thing. It's like, I can't be fucking dealing with this, you know? I'm just on his Wikipedia right now because I looked up his name. It says he was a French writer, libertine, political activist, and nobleman, best known for his novels and imprisonment for sex crimes, blasphemy, and pornography. That's pretty much a summary of him, dude. You know, and the word sadism comes from his name, de Sade. And that tells you basically everything you need to know about this guy, you know. But anyway, I didn't finish. The other two things that piss me off when it comes to names, you know what annoys me is when people initialize their name. So, for example, like H.P. Lovecraft. I don't know what his first name is, but just like say it's Howard. I don't know what it is, right? Like, just call yourself Howard Lovecraft. We don't need this H.P. bullshit, dude. Like, to overcomplicate. It's just people wanting to be unique. You know, that's all it is. It's like people asking themselves, how can I stand out? How can I make myself different? I'll have a initialized name. It's like, just have a normal fucking name. Like, I remember I was doing this work way back in my first year at university, and he had all these scores people gave. It was some data collection work, you know, and everyone gave different scores of this, like, drink, and they were, like, rating it out of 10, you know, and most of the things is just, like, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, but some twat had put, like, 6.5, like, imagine being like, oh, I'll give it a 6.5 out, like, fucking yourself, you fucking loser, oh, 6, like, shut up, it's just annoying, people want to be unique so bad, it just annoys me. And the last thing that annoys me about names is when people capitalize like their names where it doesn't belong. So for example, like when people put too many capitalizations in their surname. You get this a lot of the time with like Scottish or Irish names, where people be like, I'm Mc whatever, I'm McDonald, and they'll spell it like MC, like M is capitalized, and then Donald starts with a CT. It's like just one per name. That's all you need. You get a capital letter in your first name and your second name. That's it. Leave it. Stop messing around with stuff. It just annoys me because to me, to be honest, if a name is like or if a word in general, to be honest, has a capital letter, that's kind of a sign of like respect, and it's fine. Like everyone gets a capital letter in their name, it's all you need. But they're trying to get more than they want, It's like it's like they're trying to get more than they need. Like you just get everyone's name begins with a capital. You don't need any capitals in the middle of it. You don't need this messing around. It's just I can't stand all this fuckery in the world. There's so much wasted time because people are like 6.5 out of 10. Like fuck you, Like just like you're just the animals at the end of the day, Like just shut the fuck up. Anyway. Dude, we're 5 minutes into this video. I haven't even said anything. Okay, so Marquis de Sade was basically an old school gooner. In what we may call him in modern parlance, he was like a pervert, He was jerking off and all this shit. And I know people are going to be saying, why does he deserve his own video? Like, why does this guy need his own video? Like, I'm a gooner, I jerk off. I know that's what you're probably thinking, right? Like, I'm speaking for all of us watching this video when I say that we all have done the shit that de Sade has done, Like, what makes him such a big deal? I'll tell you, the thing is, he was doing this in the 1700s. This guy was living a long, long time ago. Like, he died in, like, 1814, apparently. So it's like, this guy was around a long time ago. And back in the day, if you looked at someone the wrong way, they'd burn you alive. They'd burn you at the fucking stake if they thought you were a witch or some shit. Which, to be honest, was kind of base. Like, we need to bring back men alive and shit, to be honest, dude. But that's neither here nor there. But, like, people would be, like, arrested for saying shit like, the earth rotated around the sun and stuff like that. All kinds of stuff like that, And it's like to live in that world where all of the things that he's into, every, debaucherous activity you could possibly imagine, and I promise you, if you can think of it, this de Sade guy's fucking done it, because I've looked into his stuff and he was into everything, like everything. Like today, that would be kind of like if someone was into the things he was into today, it would be like that's kind of weird, But to do it back in the day is insane, because let me tell you, right? Let's take an example. A vor fetish. Vor is like the sexual fetish of being eaten. It's kind of a random thing, not something I'm personally that into, but I'm just throwing it out there as an example. Now, if someone back in the day was into vor and they were like, they maybe saw something get eaten, or that, they're sat around the table, in ye olde times at the, eating, their, veggies and stuff. They might think like, oh, this is kind of, it's kind of arousing. I wish I was that vegetable or whatever. I wish I was being eaten. But then they'd probably move on. They'd live a pretty, relatively normal life, and they wouldn't really think about it. They'd probably get married and be like, oh, that's kind of weird, whatever. I guess I'm the only person really in the world, who is like, wants to be eaten. But today, because of the internet, you can go online and you can find 1 million people who have the same weird sexual fetish as you, and if it exists, there is porn of it. There is somebody out there. If there's an idea that can be conceived of, somebody is turned on by it. It doesn't matter what it is. But we take that for granted these days, but that was not always like common knowledge. And this de Sade guy was like, he was doing things back in the day where it's like genuinely like pushing the fucking limits, dude. Like this guy was arrested and all. This guy was like the Epstein of his, the Epstein of his time, and he's the real deal because he's French as well. Funny thing about him, he's probably most famous for writing this book, 120 Days of Sodom. And just from the name, alone, this is some real shit, dude. But what I found funny is he thought this book was destroyed, right? I'll get to this in a second, exactly what happened. But he thought this book was lost. He thought it was destroyed in a fire, right? But it turns out it wasn't. He scribbled it when he was in prison. He got sent to prison, basically for being a diddy blood. He was a bit of a freak, So he was sent to prison, and when he was in prison to pass the time, he was just like writing on this tiny little thing. You can go to this museum in France today and still see this the little scroll, the original thing he wrote, and it's tiny little writing because he had to do it, by candlelight in this little prison cell in France somewhere, And what happened was basically, like, after he died, bounced around from person to person. Different people owned this, this manuscript or whatever. But eventually what happened is somebody stole it, I think, and then it like ended up in France. Like it went to Switzerland. Some guy in Switzerland owned this shit, and then it went back to France. And the guy in Switzerland was like, hey, this got stolen from me, I want it back. I don't know like who the fuck he was, why he owned it. Someone needs to check his hard drive, to be honest, dude. But then the French government stepped in and they were like, actually, this is now considered a national treasure on the part of France, which is the most French thing I think I've ever heard. And I say that with respect, but I'm just saying. And so you can go see it in some fucking museum somewhere in France. I don't know where, maybe in the Louvre or some shit, dude. But you can go see this book. And it's not really a book as much as it is like a plan. It's like the first half of a book, and then the rest of it, he's kind of like planning it out. You can see he adds shit in the fucking addendums, like, oh, I gotta add this scene or whatever. And he was probably jerking his shit to this in fucking prison, dude. Like reading this shit, it's like stepping in the footsteps of historic gooners. It's really interesting. I've read it, and I've watched this movie too. They turned it into a movie. And like with many things, the movie is maybe more famous than the book. But you know what they say, you can't call yourself a fan of the anime if you haven't read the manga. And I've read the manga and I've watched the anime. And I can say that the movie stays pretty true to what he envisioned, what de Sade envisioned. De Sade, if he could see the movie, he'd probably love the movie. I think he'd like it. But it's a bit of an old movie. It's called Salo or 120 Days of Sodom, and it's a bit different, like they changed some things from the book. Like it's set in Italy, not France, which is whatever. It's neither here nor there. But I saw the movie. It's a pretty good movie, dude. I had a huge boner like the whole time I was watching. I can't say that, dude. That's fucked up. Anyway, but it turns out, right? This is the interesting thing about de Sade. Is when he was in prison, he got sent to prison, but it wasn't just any prison he got sent to. He got sent to a prison called the Bastille, which is like a really famous prison in France, because when the French Revolution happened, which is around the time this guy was like alive or whatever, the Bastille like got stormed by these like revolutionary people. And when it happened, like, he was in the prison when that happened, and he was actually like, a crowd of angry people gathered outside the prison, and he was like hanging out the little window, hands on the fucking bars, the metal bars, on those windows. I can only imagine. And he was calling out the window like, hey, how, like, guys, you got to come in here and stuff and break us out because the guards are coming around and killing everyone. And then the crowd was like, oh shit, let's go in there. So they fucking stormed it, and that started the French Revolution. So if you think about it, without de Sade, there would be no Napoleon, there would be no French Revolution. I'm sure it's probably more complicated than that, but it's just kind of an interesting thought. I just thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. And yeah, and then there was a fire in the prison, and he thought his magnum opus, dude, was lost, and he was really hung up about it. He was like, no, my masterpiece has been destroyed. You think he would be more concerned about like escaping prison, but he was like hung up on this shit. He was really upset about it. And yeah, it's, like I will say, like it's a legitimately good book. Like it's well written. It's a really interesting read. You can find it online for free. I'd recommend it. I would urge every youngster out there to go and watch Salo and go and read 120 Years of Sodom. But, and he came into contact. He actually, like, I don't know if he met Napoleon, but he talked, Napoleon knew about him. Napoleon, like, read this shit, and he was, like, so aghast by this. Napoleon, who's the guy who's coming home every day, to his wife saying like, don't wash, like, I'm coming home, like, don't wash because I need that I need that smelly ass thingy. Even for Napoleon, this was too far, dude. And Napoleon was like, arrest this guy. So they tried to, he's like, this guy's a diddy blood, we got to arrest him or whatever. But as far as I can tell, he lived a pretty normal life for the rest of his life, and he did all kinds of debauchery stuff in real life. He was escort maxing back in the day, fucking hookers, fucking dudes, men. Like, this guy was into everything. Like, you can't call yourself a real Kuma or a real pervert unless you're on de Sade's level, in my opinion. But and the movie is a little bit different in some ways. Like, for example, like I said, it's set in Italy. It's set in like Italy at the end of like World War II. And it's meant to be like, oh, these fascists are so bad, they're doing all this deranged, degenerate shit. It's like, I thought when I was watching, I was like, this is fucking awesome, dude. I wish I could be there, to be honest, bro. I need, in the spirit of Napoleon, I need like some Italian like fascist girl with like a hairy, really unwashed, stinky pussy, like all up in my face, dude. That'd be awesome. But oh well, it's probably never gonna happen. Those who know. But anyway. let's talk about de Sade's philosophy a little bit. So one of the things that really like attracted me to how he thought about things, I think like one of the like to be smart means that you one of the things about being smart is you can entertain ideas without like fully embracing them, right? So they're like, I don't agree with him on everything, but there's some things I do agree with him on, de Sade, you know, in terms of like how he saw the world. And one of the things I was like, when I heard about this, I thought like, wow, this guy gets it, you know, is that he talks about basically love isn't real, love is dumb, love isn't true, love isn't a thing. All the things that I've been saying for a long time, you know, like human beings are selfish, human nature is fundamentally selfish, all relationships are transactional, all of these classic BP talking points. You know, if Marquis de Sade was alive today, he would love the BP. You know, he would, I mean, he's not an inkwell per se because he's just escort maxing so much, and he had a wife too. Back in the day, anyone could get a fucking wife, dude. Today, he would be like, I don't know what he would be, dude. He would be on Epstein Island for sure, dude. For fucking sure. But anyway, and there, I kind of thought about his philosophy, you know, and in the movie it says something, it says, there's a great quote, it says, we fascists are the true anarchists, and it's so true, you know, like there's so much cool kino I've been watching lately, dude, so much, like so many cool French movies out there that are about like fucked up shit, dude. There's this one French movie I saw called The Piano Teacher, and it's about this guy who plays piano, and it's this like older woman who's like a piano teacher, as the name would suggest, and she like I'm not gonna spoil the movie, you know, go watch the movie, but it's so good, dude. I remember thinking like, I wish I was this fucking guy, dude. I wish I could be like molested by my piano teacher, you know. I used to have a maths tutor when I was a kid, and she was really cute. I wish she molested me. And like the thing about being touched as a kid, dude, is my only regret is it didn't happen more often. Real talk, you know, real fucking talk. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now, as for the three, I identified kind of three pillars or three corners. If you think of de Sade's philosophy as like a triangle, I imagined three different key features. So when it comes to philosophy, I don't know if you'd consider de Sade to be like a true philosopher, but when it comes to philosophy and philosophers, a lot of the time their ideology is named after them, right? So like Marxism, for example, is named after obviously Karl Marx, and there's lots of examples like that. So is sadism just de Sade's whole philosophy? Is it just like wanting to, because sadism is the I think it's categorized as the derivement of pleasure from inflicting pain on other people, you know, and that is a huge part of his worldview, but that's not the whole thing. That's one aspect of it. Now, I would say that his philosophy is actually something called libertinism, and he's a libertine. I don't know if the libertinism is like the word you would use, you know, like if people haven't already been using that word, like they're free to. I'm happy to coin that term, you know, if people want to credit me, that's fine. You know, I'm a humble guy, but yeah, libertinism and sadism is one of the aspects of that, and the other two I'd say are atheism. And this is another thing, dude, this guy was like an atheist back in the day, and like I know today like everyone's like a fucking fedora tipping atheist and stuff. Is, you know, most people in the West probably don't believe in God, but it's like to be an atheist in the 1700s is a huge deal, dude. Like that takes serious balls. Like whether or not I wouldn't call myself an atheist, or don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying like this takes serious guts to say that. Like, this guy was putting his life on the fucking line saying this shit, dude. So, you know, I'm just saying. And then the other aspect is what there's many things you would call it, but I would call it hyper-individualism. Okay, so I'll go through these. So the first is sadism, and this is one of the things that when I heard this, I was like, wow, you know, this de Sade guy, he's really on this shit. He's on the ball here. You know, it's because when I went recently, I went to this like big hall. I talked about this already, so I'll be brief. But I went to this at university to join the different societies and things. You know, I went to this sports hall where you sign up, and I signed up for karate. And when I was there was a girl who was like kind of taking sign-ups. So I went up to her and I was like, hey, you know, I'd like to join. And she didn't even look me in the goddamn eyes, dude. She didn't even look at my face. She like looked away and she just kind of backed off without saying anything, and I was like, okay, that's fucking weird. And then this guy came up who also worked there, and he was like, oh hey, you know, I'll help you sign up or whatever. And it's like, you know, why wouldn't she wouldn't even look at me. And I talked about that. I was like, fuck, you know, it really made me like pissed off, because I was thinking like, I'm not even like, if I was asking her out, I'd get it, but I'm not even like, you're here, you chose to be here to, yeah, it just pissed me off. I was like, what the fuck, you know, like really, like am I that bad? but de Sade speaks about this. He talks about this and what he said. He doesn't come right out and say anything, you know. But you have to, because he didn't write theses. Like, he didn't say like, oh, this is my ideology. But he wrote like fiction novels, you know. And 120 Days of Sodom is only one of them. He wrote a couple of them, and I would urge people to go out and read them. You know, they're very good. They're very. I enjoy them. You know what I'm. If you know what I'm saying, dude. Because I'm a sicko, but I'm only kind of joking, dude. I'm saying this in jest, kind of, but anyway, for legal reasons, I have to say that's a joke. But he says in his book, basically, if you love somebody, one of the key ideas he puts forward is that negative emotions or negative feelings are more potent, or they're more powerful than positive ones, right? So, for example, if you love somebody, you know, let's say you're like having boom boom, you know, you're having, you know, the physical act of love, and you kind of orgasm, you know, you feel a certain way. It feels pretty good for a little bit, but whatever. And your mind might be on other things. If you're ugly as a guy, we all know this. Like, this is classic BP 101 shit. If you're ugly or whatever, no women, you're not going to be pleasuring any women. Like, all of this stuff to gain these feelings is very difficult, you know. But he talks about how this is the sadism aspect, is inflicting suffering on somebody, inflicting pain on somebody. Like, you better believe all of their attention is going to be on you. And that's kind of how I felt when I was talking to this girl, or trying to, and she just like backed off without even saying anything to me. I was like, if I was hurting you, like, I'm trying to be nice here, you know, but if I was hurting you, your attention would be 100% on me, you know. And that's what he talks about. That's how he says, like, if you can gain pleasure from inflicting suffering on others, it's a very potent feeling, you know. And I feel like a big part of that is just him, what I would say, intellectualizing his own sickness, you know, he's a twisted individual, you know, and he's just trying to intellectualize that. But I don't see why that's not valid, you know. And that's one aspect. And he talks about all this fucked up shit, like, you know, I don't know if these words I can say on YouTube, you know, like incest, all this shit, you know, homosexuality, all of this fucked up shit for the time was considered very wrong, you know. Anyway, you should do it. He was like, yeah, you should go ahead and do this stuff because, like, negative feelings feel better than positive ones, basically. The atheist thing, I think, is pretty easy to understand, because basically, if there's no God, there's no objective morality, and religion, and specifically like being anti-religious, plays a huge role in Salo in the movie and in his books, you know. I think that's really interesting. And I'm not saying, you know, this is what I mean, like, being able to entertain ideas without necessarily embracing them, you know. But it's like, yeah, like the thing, a lot of atheists will say, hey, if, you know, sorry, I mean, that's not true. If a lot of religious people will say, like, hey, you know, if God doesn't exist, why aren't you murdering and raping right now? And it's like, good question. You know, like, why not, right? So and that's what de Sade does. He's like, yeah, like, check, like, and I respect that so much, of just being like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. There's no right or wrong, really, you know. And let's face it, the world is not nice to kind people. It's just not. It's just fucking not, dude. So that's another aspect. There's no objective morality without God. So atheism and libertine sadism kind of play into him. And the third aspect is the hyper-individualism. And that's basically just like saying, do whatever you want. You know, like, do it, like, go out there, do whatever if it makes you feel good, do it, basically. And that's an interesting way of seeing things, in my opinion, because this is what it says. It says this in 120 Days of Sodom. This was like one of the greatest excerpts from the book. I thought this was really food for thought, you know. Is he says, like, there's a bit where basically, you know, kind of like Plato does this when you have like dialogues between characters who argue points, and it's kind of like a ye olde Soyjack versus Chad type meme, you know, where they argue, you know, you kind of present the arguments, but the two different characters are arguing, and one of them, who's basically presenting de Sade's view, says, if, you know, because this other guy, he's like a libertine, and this other guy, he's like hurting him or torturing him or whatever, and the guy's like, you know, this is fucked up, you shouldn't be doing this. And then de Sade basically says, like, what if you're saying you don't like this thing happening to you, therefore it shouldn't happen to you, what basis is that to say objectively what's right or wrong, any more than if I feel good doing it, then I should say, yeah, I'll do it. Like, you know, like, why is one better than the other? Why does one outweigh the other? You know, and it's kind of like a super evil way of seeing the world. Like, I'm not going to fully embrace this stuff or say this is all A-okay, you know, but it is a way of seeing the world, and it's certainly an interesting one that I've been kind of entertaining and stuff. And I'm not like, to be clear, I'm not saying that people out there should go out and do any of these fucked up things, by the way, just to be clear. I'm just saying, like, it's just an intro, like I said, being able to entertain ideas without necessarily embracing them, holding them at a distance. And when it comes to a lot of this harsh reality, like the world is not all fucking sunshine and rainbows and there's lots of evil shit, learning a lot about natural selection and evolution recently at university, in terms of like biology and stuff. And I have this super soyish fucking lecturer dude comes out, literally looks like a soy jack. I call him like Professor Soy Jack. He, like, if you told me that the original Soy Jack Copson image was made by a student who went to this university who saw this guy and based it off of him, I wouldn't even be surprised. He looks so much like him, dude. Like, he puts pictures of himself in his fucking PowerPoints where he's like, it'll be about fish, for example, and he'll be holding up some sardines and he'll be making a soy face like, oh my god, guys, check it out. And then he'll be like, as you can see, this is me when I went to Finland and I'm holding some fish. Or so it's like, dude, what the fuck, dude? Like, this guy's such a fucking weirdo. He's so soyish, dude. He's always saying some shit. Like, I went to one lecture, and it was like a bunch of white guys, who, as fucking always, obviously, who had discovered some scientific thing. And he said at the start of the lecture, he's like, right, guys, I am sorry, but it is a lot of old white men today. It's like, yeah, no shit, dude, because we're the ones who have a fucking IQ above room temperature. So of course it's going to be us. I'm just saying, dude, let's not even go there. But this guy's such a fucking loser, in my opinion. And if you went to him talking about natural selection, this and that, he'd be like, oh yeah, he'd be super on board. He's like, yeah, natural selection, evolution, Charles Darwin, yeah. But then if you talk to him about like the BP and being like, oh, looks matter, mate selection in humans, all this stuff, all of a sudden these people, especially now the BP's gone more mainstream, he would be like, we can't say this stuff about women, or what. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Genuinely. Like, like, these people think like, okay, there's, we're just on a fucking rock hurtling through space. There's no meaning to life whatsoever. There's no God. God doesn't exist. There's no morality, blah, blah, blah. And life is meaningless and we're all going to die. And then it's just nothing. That's what these people believe in. But God forbid you call someone the N-word, then you're in serious trouble, Is they just like, make it make sense, dude, like, life is meaningless, the universe is going to end, God doesn't exist, and we're in a speck in a massive universe that is indifferent to our existence. But then if you if you wanted to have a wholesome like relationship with your sister, these people all of a sudden would be like, oh, no, that's immoral, you can't do that. It's like why? Like, if that's the case, if God doesn't exist and all of this stuff is meaningless, there's no morality, like, why can't I go and murder and like get people? Like, what? Like, genuinely, like, I'm not saying I want to do that or that you should do that. I'm just saying, like, in their point of view, why would you not be able to do that? It's just hypocritical, really. Yeah, I've been seriously kind of evil maxing in lots of ways recently. I think that might be the way, not to go out of my way to hurt people, but just to kind of embrace dark triad psychopathy. One of the ways I did this recently in a kind of Patrick Bateman type of way was, I was walking to my lecture. Okay, this was a while ago, and there was like, for some reason, because I go to university in like the middle of nowhere, basically, right? And where the lectures are held, it's held in this like theater for some reason. It's like a cinema, basically, and it's like one of the like only like 10 buildings around here. The whole place is surrounded by fucking woods and fields and shit, just in the middle of fucking nowhere. Then you come to the town, and it's like probably like 100 people live here, and you go to the cinema. So there's like a bunch of random like families and like just members of the public are walking around when you're going to your class or whatever. So I was walking through this like lobby area where I was trying to get to where the lecture was, and there was like a pillar holding up some platform, and then there was a table with some chairs, and there was like a gap in between them, right? So there was just enough space for one person to walk through, maybe two if you squeezed, right? So I was walking through, and I was already like, almost out the other side when this thing happened. There was this Indian kid. I'm pretty sure he's another fucking student. Obviously there's a ton of fucking Indians, and this guy's like walking, and he like turns on a dime. He sees that I'm walking through this little gap, and he like turns around to like try and walk through this thing. And what I would usually maybe do, and maybe what the polite quote unquote thing to do, is to like move to the side a little bit so he can get past. But I remember thinking, like, you can just walk around. You've gone out of your way to almost be confrontational to, you know, do this thing. I'm not fucking moving an inch, bitch, you know. So what I was walking. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. I didn't go out of my way to push him or anything. But I just had this poker face, this stone cold Patrick Bateman stare, you know. And I walked past, and my arm just bumped him. I saw him like kind of fall back a little bit, and I didn't look back or anything. Dude, so super Patrick Bateman-esque psycho kind of shit. That's why I need to up my game. I need to keep doing things like that's awesome, dude. Just things like that, just being like not evil, but just being this like dark triad kind of guy, you know. Because I tried being nice, you know. I tried being a nice person, and the world wasn't nice to me. But I don't know, I'm pretty fickle. I kind of flip-flop between ideologies pretty quickly, to be honest, so we'll see how long that kind of stuff lasts. But I just wanted to talk about de Sade a little bit, you know, because I think he's a really interesting guy, you know, and like I said, it's about being able to entertain these ideas without necessarily embracing them, and really interesting people, and also just being like a horny, perverted person, which I definitely am, just porn-brained person, dude, and, yeah, I don't know, just, just thinking about it, dude. I don't know. Maybe this video will make me paint me in a pretty bad light, you know. But I'm always just honest. That's how I roll. And I'm not saying to do any of these things, for the record. Please don't break the law or anything like that. But, you know, that's the thing. People will be acting all edgy. They'll be like, oh, I'm like super into, you know, oh, Nietzsche, you know, atheism, nihilism, man. I'm so into this stuff. But then as soon as they come across someone that makes them like a little bit uncomfortable, like de Sade, all of a sudden they're like, no, actually this stuff's actually really wrong and you shouldn't do this. It's like, whatever, dude. You know, what fucking ever. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably pretty much it. I've probably been talking about this for enough time now. I don't know how this video is going to come out. I might not be happy with it, but we'll see, man. You know, sorry, it's been a little while since I've uploaded. I have been ill, unfortunately. But no, man, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So I'll say wherever you are in the world, you know, have a good morning. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.